Okay, well, hello everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join me today to discuss robust cloud-based IT infrastructures. My name is Paul Wismar, Senior Systems Consultant with Nortech Communications. For those of you who are not familiar with Nortech, haven't done business with us before, we are a Microsoft Gold partner operating in the Mid-Atlantic region since 1991. We have offices in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and we're headquartered in Falls Church, Virginia. We focus on systems integration, including infrastructure, unified communications, and cloud. So just to give you an idea of the way I see things playing out today, we're going to do about 20 minutes of slides just to sort of set the stage for the solutions, and then we're going to move into a walkthrough and demo of the services for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to open it up to questions. I'd ask that you just hold your questions to the end, and then we'll do like a chat-based Q&A type session. Okay, so sort of the industry trends that we've been seeing are, cloud devices and mobility. 542 billion worldwide spend 2012, 95% of workers reporting using at least one self-purchased device for work, and in terms of small to mid-sized businesses, 71% require technology that enables their staff to work anywhere at any time. So, that kind of brings up some business challenges for us, right? So the concerns are that you have to make sure everything works on everyone's mobile devices. And, people who don't work in the same physical location need to be able to collaborate. And of course, cost conscious. Everybody is trying to do more with less today. And in some cases, people want control over the tools that employees have. So the solution here is enter Office 365. It's a cloud optimized productivity service hosted by Microsoft and designed specifically keeping in mind the needs of businesses. So customers, in talking to customers, there's been a few areas of concern off the top of their heads, and that's number one is the ability to manage the mobile workforce and allowing users to work from anywhere. Second, the ability for users in different physical locations to work together and track progress of projects. Third, IT managers today wear many hats, and they want to be able to manage the demands of the workforce with as little effort as possible while being certain the security of the organization data is not compromised. So just talking in terms of the availability of the services themselves, I feel pretty confident in saying that I don't think any of us here today have the dollars nor the wherewithal to build data centers the way that Microsoft does. Just in terms of redundancy, there's physical redundancy at every layer. That's at the server layer, that's at the data center layer, and that's geographically. So we have data redundancy with robust automatic and manual failover. We have resiliency with active load balance, active load balancing, automated failover with human backup, extensive recovery testing across domains, and the services themselves are distributed. So the pieces of Office 365 like Exchange Online, SharePoint, and Lync are distributed throughout, so if pockets of the infrastructure fail, a service itself is never brought down. So, what is it? What's in Office 365? What do we get? So it's a lot of familiar features to us. So we get business class email with Exchange Online, and that's 50 gig mailboxes per user, which is pretty remarkable. We get online conferencing with Lync Online, so that's HD video conferencing, instant messaging, presence, the ability to audio with Skype users as well. We get public-facing websites via SharePoint Online, so a little bit of cost saved there if we can bring our public-facing website in-house. We get file storage and sharing, that's with OneDrive, and that's also with SharePoint Online. We get access to Office Online, and we also get included in the service desktop versions of the full Office suite, as well as Active Directory integration and self-serve business intelligence. And there's a guaranteed SLA of 99.9% uptime. Some of us probably don't even have published SLAs out to our users and out to our customers, so it gives you some peace of mind knowing that you do have that. So just in terms of the value, so because Office 365 is software as a service, there's minimal upfront cost. We don't need to buy any hardware to deploy Office 365. Now, I'll caveat that slightly with saying, our larger customers are going to want to deploy what's called directory synchronization and single sign-on, and we'll get into what that stuff means. But we don't even need to deploy physical hardware to do that. We could host some of that stuff in Windows Azure. And the ability to scale it. I mean, I myself have been involved in deployments with 50 users and with thousands of users, so we can really tailor the solution to your organization specifically. And it's always current, so you're not worrying about upgrading to the latest version of Exchange anymore. You're not worried about upgrading to the latest version of Lync or of SharePoint. Microsoft takes care of doing that for you. And it's a predictable per user per month cost. So having that predictable cost is something that is very attractive for a lot of people. Okay. So anywhere access on your devices. So Office 365 includes the latest version of all Office applications available for download on PCs and on Macs. And in addition, it also provides access to certain Office applications that are optimized for tablets and smartphones. Some of you may have heard the news recently that Office Mobile was just released for iPad, completely free, joining the already released versions for iPhone and Android. So it's accessing documents wherever you go. One of the key offerings of 365 is to have access to your documents and settings wherever you go. Once you sign into the Office 365 service itself, you can access the documents via OneDrive and SharePoint online. And creating and editing documents. So the Office web applications are improved to provide the full feature experience in your web browser. So if you're on a non-Windows machine, you always have the Office web apps to create new documents and edit existing documents using your favorite web browser. With the new web apps, you get more of the same ribbon experience that you're used to with having a full deployment of Office on your PC. And we can also get updated editing functionality like inline reply to comments, as well as a rich editing experience, all from within your browser using the web apps. And of course, you can always get the full Office suite on your desktops just the same way we always have. We can either stream it from 365 itself, or we can manually or automatically deploy Office to our PCs. And the nice thing is it can run side by side with your legacy versions of Office. If for some reason there's a requirement to keep those in the environment, you can get the latest and greatest on the PC side by side. So meetings. So one of the biggest challenges for a remote workforce is to hold meetings. So Lync in 365 has solved the problem by adding multi-party HD video conferencing, plus the ability to share your screen, be it a specific document, presentation, or your entire desktop. And by the way, that's how we're doing this today. And with the latest release, we can also create and share OneNote meeting notes within the Lync meeting live during the meeting. So pretty cool feature there. So project collaboration with 365 SharePoint team sites and site mailboxes, we can manage a project easily right from within Outlook. You can subscribe to the site mailboxes for a given project, and it shows up as a separate mailbox in Outlook. And we can manage the documents related to that project from within Outlook also. So we click on the Shared Docs folder under the team mailbox, and you see all the docs that are shared by the team related to that project. We can drag any docs or email attachments there from the desktop, and it's uploaded to SharePoint for the entire team to consume. In addition to the emails and docs, we can also edit the project task list on SharePoint and get a quick view at the progress of the project from the team site page. Another great feature is the ability to share with customers and partners. So we could share docs, spreadsheets, presentations, and notes easily using OneDrive from the preview pane for the document. Or we can actually now easily share documents from within each Office application by clicking on the share link. So that was a little bit sort of a quick and dirty overview of what it looks like from the end user's experience. Now we're going to kind of shift gears slightly just to look at what it looks like from the administrators or us as IT pros, what it looks like from our perspective. And we're going to see more of this when we go through the walkthrough, but just a couple of slides here to show you that it is a unified web console that we access in order to do all the administration associated with, with 365 in general, with Link, Exchange, and SharePoint specifically. And this is all our users and groups. We're going to get into that a little bit on a slide coming up here. We can actually create service requests right from the portal in the Office 365 Admin Center and get help directly from Microsoft. That, again, that's built into what it is that we're paying for via the service offering. Okay, so identity. Let me just build this out here before we talk about this slide. So sort of the foundation of the service is identities, because in order to consume the service, you must have an identity. And it's kind of split out here in two different buckets, and it's really split out by the size of your organization and the requirements. If you're a smaller shop, you can create identities directly in the cloud, directly within Office 365. You get signed up, you create your users there, you start consuming the service, and away you go. If you're a little bit larger organization, or you have some sort of requirements and you already have an investment in Active Directory on premises today, we can actually bring those same identities, those same usernames and passwords up into 365 by a process called directory synchronization, thereby allowing users to have the same usernames and passwords that they have today with the same domain name that they have today, using those same credentials to access the services provided by Office 365. So, and also included is, we get anti-spam and anti-malware. So a lot of people today who are using Exchange, on premises, use some sort of third party to do, what's called message hygiene. So to filter out spam, to filter out viruses. Typically I see, customers that I work with using some sort of third party to do that. But now we get that all included. And it's really pretty straightforward to set up these rules. And we'll see some of this when we get into the walkthrough in a little bit more depth. But it's included in the service, and it's really pretty straightforward to deploy these things to help protect the organization from infections via email messages, which is kind of the most common places that you see that stuff. And we also get the ability to create mobile access policies. We're going to see this in a little more depth when we switch over to the devices section of the conversation, but just know that out of the box we can create mobile device policies. These are analogous to Exchange Active Sync policies if you're running Exchange on premises today, and do things like setting a password and require it to be complex, and if the phone goes inactive after a certain period of time. So we do get a pretty fair amount of control out of the box with the Office 365 services themselves. Okay, so we kind of looked at what is the service, what is the service offerings. We talked about anywhere access on devices, employees being able to work from anywhere. And what about those devices themselves? I mean, how do we manage those devices? How do we bring our PCs and our tablets and our phones under our control? How do we get company data out to them in a secure way? So just kind of shifting the conversation here a little bit. So the challenges today are that users expect to be able to work in any location, right? This idea of a mobile workforce, where you're going to hear me harp on that throughout the webinar today. And the devices are everywhere, and everyone wants to use different devices on different platforms. And then applications, being able to deploy and manage applications across different platforms, well, that's not an easy task for us to do. And then data, we need to be able to protect it. We need to have people being productive, but we also have to maintain compliance and mitigate risk. So consumerization is here to stay. So, we as IT pros, we really have to evolve our thinking and adjust it to where the market is taking us today. And, there's kind of a few key tenets there that we need to keep in mind. So enabling users, allowing them to work on the device of their choice and provide consistent access to corporate resources. Unifying the environment. We want the experience to be the same no matter where the employee is and no matter from what device that person is working. And as we said earlier, we need to protect our data. So the solution here is the solution to these scenarios we just introduced is Windows Intune. So Intune is a single web-based administration console for managing client devices such as your Windows desktops, your laptops, your tablets, your mobile phones, and this includes iOS and Android as well as Windows. And these managed devices can be domain joined or not domain joined. And we enforce policies for things like Windows updates, anti-malware settings, endpoint protection, firewall settings, and we can distribute software for both desktop and modern store apps. We can remotely wipe and block mobile devices. Windows phones, iOS, and now Android can be directly managed, meaning we get extra settings to manage these devices when they're directly managed. So we're not layering on a piece of software to do the management. We're actually directly interfacing with the platform itself. And small to mid-sized companies can manage their entire client infrastructure with Intune. And Intune's license per user adds a subscription, and each user can have up to 5 devices, which can be a mix of desktops, laptops, tablets, and mobile phones. So Intune provides a rich console to address the needs of managing many aspects of the PC and mobile device environment, such as software distribution and updates, the endpoint protection, monitoring, reporting, and then we also get a much richer mobile device management experience. So when we talked about Office 365 mobile device management capabilities, 5 or 10 minutes ago, although we do get some baseline control there, Intune really layers on a much more robust feature set in terms of being able to bring those devices under control. So as well as PC management, Intune can provide management for mobile devices. So this concept of bring your own device has kind of been a buzzword over the past 18 months or so. So this includes enrollment, inventory, settings management, application management, and corporate data protection. And it's available for Windows, Windows Phone, iOS, and Android devices. So, kind of the beauty of Intune is this whole cross-platform management. So when we're thinking about a mobile workforce and we're thinking about giving the users the ability to pick what they want, well, it's great that we can have control over each of those devices. And other devices that are Exchange ActiveSync clients can also be managed via the Intune Exchange connector. And this can talk to either on-premises Exchange or Office 365 hosted Exchange to enable centralized managed ES clients. So we can bring in those older sort of legacy versions of operating systems, and we can manage that with ActiveSync policies plus the robust management that we get with the direct management channel. So enabling users to get easy access to corporate applications is, one of the key things about Intune. And this is enabled via a company portal experience that's provided by Intune. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. So, it'll become more clear once we get into the walkthrough of what some of this stuff looks like. So in terms of conceptualizing it, I'd like to just first introduce what the idea is, and then kind of show you what it looks like to sort of get the idea completely across. So in the company portal, the user can find applications that are published and manage devices enrolled in the Intune service and access support information for the corporate IT department. So the end user experience for Windows, Windows Phone, iOS is a company portal that's provided, and it enables the user to get easy access to the corporate applications. So it's about creating this consistent experience across the disparate platforms in order for the user to recognizably be able to grab things from the company portal itself. And for Windows, iOS, and Android 4.x, it's an application available from the public app stores for Windows Phone, The portal is provided to the user during their enrollment in the Intune service. So end user capabilities here. So the end user experience and capabilities of the portal, of the company portal that is, have been kept consistent. Again, this idea of consistency. And there's only a few exceptions to this, like I mentioned, such as the older Exchange ActiveSync managed devices. But the idea is that the user should be easily able to navigate the company portal if they change devices. So as part of the management capability of Intune, inventory data is collected from mobile devices and available via the Intune console. And this enables us as IT pros to easily track when hardware is in use and track potential issues such as when device approach storage capacity limits. And we don't, keeping privacy in mind here, we don't inventory the software that's installed by the user themselves from the public app store. It's really just the hardware at that point. So settings, to me, the key functionality, the key capability of Intune is settings. It's creating policies that we can push out to our devices, and then those policies govern what happens on those devices, right? So when the updates go in, when the endpoint protection gets pushed, getting that company portal out to them. So the policies are applied via the direct management that we talked about and through Exchange ActiveSync, depending on the management authority of the device. And the administrator, us as IT pros, we have a single interface for configuring those policies, regardless of whether being managed directly or via Exchange ActiveSync. So kind of doing everything all in the same place. So just to put up a chart here, some of the different settings that we can accomplish across the various platforms, password encryption, malware, and a bunch of other different things. And just to give you an idea of, we can publish applications across the various platforms. So this is, native applications written for Android, written for iOS, and then of course MSI and XEs are, Windows format that we're probably most familiar with. Okay, so just gonna cool little slide here to kind of step through the enrollment process, and then how we also retire and wipe those devices. So we get the device enrolled into the Intune service, and then that gives us access to the corporate data. If the device is lost or stolen, we can completely wipe the device. If the device is retired, meaning the employee is getting a new device or the employee is leaving the company, we can just pull off the corporate data. So again, like the selective wipe removes the corporate applications and data and the policies that we've pushed out via the enrollment, and the full wipe is supported if supported by the platform, and we can execute it from the IT side, or the user can do it via the company portal. And the sensitive data and applications can be kept off the device and accessed via remote desktop services. And RDS is kind of beyond the scope of what it is that we're talking about today, but I like to include that just so you can sort of, envision, where this is all heading and how we're walling off the corporate data on the personal devices. So the wipe and retire, as you can see, we have a bunch of different options to do that, supported across each of the platforms. And great, we are at the end of the slides. Thank goodness we got through that. I'm not much of a slide person, but it does it does definitely help in sort of setting the stage for what we're going to show, and then hopefully what we show ties everything together so we can get some great Q&A going. All right. Good. Pull this across here. So I'm going to get signed back in, and this is Oh, and by the way, Nortech is run on Office 365 and Intune, so we use all these services on a daily basis and have been for quite some time. So, we're very familiar with both the administrative end of things and what the end user experience looks like. So that was, we use single sign-on at Nortech, and that was Active Directory Federated Services. So when we talked a little bit about identity before, our sort of, oh, let me hold off on that because we'll get to it when we're doing the walkthrough here. I just want to get everything refreshed so it'll be accessible for us. Okay. So this is the Office 365 Administration Center. So we get signed up, we create what's called a tenant, and then once we have some licensing and we've created our tenant and we get logged in with an administrative user, this is what it looks like. So we have this full dashboard that you see right off. And what's front and center here is the current health of all the Office 365 services. So if although there's all this redundancy and high availability and all that kind of good stuff, there are times where there's slight interruptions with the service, like there is with pretty much any service that you subscribe to. It doesn't happen very often, but your users might be calling you up saying I can't get email, or it doesn't seem like some of the services are working properly. So the first thing you want to do is come in and check out the current health of the 365 services. We can initiate service requests from here. It gives us a nice view of what our mail protection is looking like in terms of how much spam we're getting. Message Center, this is if there's any planned maintenance or our licenses might be expiring. We'll see those sorts of things here. The services that we actually subscribe to are viewed here. And then along the right-hand side here, we have all these shortcuts, resetting passwords, creating users if we're not using Active Directory as our source of authority, resources, so a lot of information about how to accomplish basic tasks and more complex tasks within 365, and then access to the communities where people discuss various aspects of the administration. So if we just kind of drill down over here, users and groups. In the case of Nortech, we're actually using directory synchronization, so we're taking our on-premises users who had identities, usernames and passwords in Active Directory, and we're syncing them up into Office 365. Now, Office 365 uses Active Directory too. It's called Windows Azure Active Directory. And then once our on-premises Active Directory identities are synced up into Windows Azure Active Directory, we can use those identities across the various services. So we could use those identities in 365, we could use those identities in Intune, we could use those identities in Windows Azure. So as I said, everything sort of rides on the identity. You must have a user account in order to consume the services. So as you might expect, we have all our active, deleted security groups, admins of the Office 365 console itself, our domains. So you bring your own domain name to 365. You just have to go through a validation process that proving that you actually do own that. Licensing, this will show up based on the actual subscription that we've purchased. Various service settings we can do from here. So it's mail, it's our SharePoint sites link. The software, this is where we actually would go to grab the full Office suite if we wanted to deploy that onto PCs. Passwords, rights management, and then over in mobile we can do our active sync policies, mobile device policies that we talked about. We can do mail flow from here, create custom rules for manipulating mail in a particular way. We could do auditing. And click over here to service health. This will give you a more detailed view of what's going on that we saw on the dashboard with the health of 365 itself. This gives you a more detailed view of what's happened over the past 7 days, and you can also see the past 30 days of history. We can do full reporting on anything that goes on within our Office 365 tenant across any of the services. As we talked about a little bit earlier, we can open up a service request right from here. So, if something just does not seem to be working correctly, you as I stated, you get support from Microsoft included with the purchase. And then we can purchase additional services. And again, the message center down here, if there's any planned outages on things, or if, like I said, if something's expired, and then various tools that we can use. So if you come across the top, so that's kind of the admin portion of 365 itself. Now I can click directly into web app, equivalent to OWA of the past. I can get right into my calendar. I can do the social experience using Yammer, which is something that we didn't really talk about too much today. I can do a news feed via SharePoint. My OneDrive account is right here. That's a personal OneDrive account. I can get into my SharePoint sites. This is all user perspective type thing, these clickable buttons here. In terms of administration, Office 365 is where we are right now, and we can click into Exchange. So if we moved up our mail to 365, this is where we would go in order to do mail specific type things. And again, same sort of experience. So we have our recipients. It's going to show us all of our mailboxes that we have up there, all of our permissioning, compliance stuff. If we're involved in some sort of litigation, we need to do some e-discovery and in-place hold, auditing, retention policies, all the same rich stuff that we can do on premises with Exchange. We can do that in Office 365 as well. I mean, Exchange Online is the same thing as Exchange 2013. So we have all the same functionality that we would have in an on-premises deployment. Protection, this is where we can create the malware filters that we talked about a little bit earlier. Again, it's literally you're clicking a plus sign. You're telling it exactly what you want to do. You're giving it a name, and away you go. And some of this stuff you can do in test mode ahead of time, so that's a pretty nice feature. So if you're not sure exactly the way something's going to behave, you can create these various filters in test mode first. And then mail flow, if we're doing a what's called a hybrid deployment, where we have some mailboxes on-prem and some mailboxes in 365, we need to create these rules to tell it which way mail is going to flow. Again, access the mobile device stuff, public folders, and then unified messaging. So that's just the exchange portion. And then you also have all of your link settings. So again, full administration of link, your users, your organization, internal and external communication type things, conferencing, meeting invitation. So, the idea is just to tell you do still have pretty granular control over everything that's going on within 365. So moving to the cloud, you're not surrendering control. You're really just giving up the worry of on-prem infrastructure. So you're not worrying about hardware failures. You're not worrying about hardware life cycles anymore, replacing servers and things like that. So a lot of the burdens, a lot of the things that keep us awake as IT professionals at night are eliminated by going to a software as a service model. Just in terms of timing, I'm going to pop over to the Windows Intune stuff at this point. So I talked about source of authority for being from Active Directory, being synced into Azure Active Directory, and that follows through across any cloud-based service that you go to from Microsoft. So because everything over here that I've synced from my on-prem organization via directory synchronization is already in the cloud in Azure Active Directory, I also have those same users over here. So it's various ways of accessing the same base of information. So this is but you can also create users directly in Intune. If you didn't want to do directory synchronization, I can just create identities within Intune itself and then start consuming some of those services to manage PCs, getting updates on them, pushing out endpoint protection, and so forth. And Intune is actually managed. This is the Intune Management Console. You literally just click on Admin Console right here. It brings this up, and this is where we create our policies. We can create groups, and in those groups we can bring in stuff that we synced from Active Directory. We can create new groups to do different things. For I might want my Salesforce computers to have different policies than my engineering computers. If you're a larger organization, you can split things up like that. So updates, this is where we configure and what they do. So we can, sort of automatically approve critical updates, security updates. We can manually do some of this stuff. Just think of it as WSUS in the cloud, essentially. A lot of us run Windows Service Update services on-prem today to get servers and workstations patched up. Or if you're a smaller organization, maybe you just go right out to the internet to the Windows Update service itself. So that functionality is brought into Intune in order to, get more granular control over things. And endpoint protection, so, we're actually pushing out agents to PCs in order to protect them from viruses and malware. And let me just show you that here. So when you're enrolled in the Intune service, there's a client that gets pushed to your PC, which I have on my PC here. So we can get applications from the company portal, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So your update status, your actual endpoint protection status. I'm running a different antivirus vendor software, so I don't actually have this installed. And then we can get remote assistance right from the device itself. So pretty useful stuff. Alerting. If there's a device that's infected, we can be alerted about that. Software, this is where we can sort of set up like a repository of software that we may want to publish out via the company portal. We can control some of that stuff here. We have licensing. And then policies, which is kind of the meat of Intune for me. I mean, this is what instructs the device to do certain things. So we can open up firewalls with this stuff. Let's see, I'll just edit this one so you guys can take a peek at what that looks like. So endpoint protection, we can say yes, install it. If it's third party, don't install it, which is, the setting that I'm under right now. Enable it, create system restore points, real-time protection, we can change all that behavior here. These policies control the Windows updating frequency, how often the device checks in, user device linking. We might not want users to be able to enroll the device themselves, and we can control that kind of stuff. And then how much network bandwidth is taken up. And there's all kinds of different policies we can create based on whether or not you're a PC or whether or not you're a mobile device or tablet. And then reporting, we can get very detailed reports about everything that's going on with devices. And the administration here, so a lot of the sort of one-time configuration type stuff and a lot of the configuration of the company portal is done via the administration portion of the Intune console here. And just to give you an idea, we talked about the company portal a little bit earlier, and so from the PC's perspective, this is what it looks like. So these are just some applications that we published out for demonstration purposes. And if I were to go to this company portal with a mobile device or a tablet, the idea would be that this experience, the look and feel of this company portal where I can grab software from, looks the same across any device that I'm accessing the company portal from. So that's kind of it. We have 15 minutes left that I'd like to devote to Q&A. I realize we covered a ton of ground. It's a lot of information to absorb at once. I mean, hopefully you've heard of some of this stuff before, and this kind of ties it all together for you. We looked at high availability, redundancy, and disaster recovery with, the scope of what 365 offering looks like. We looked a little bit about what it looks like from the user's perspective. We went through what the administration looks like from 365 for Exchange, for Link, and for SharePoint, and then we went over and took a peek at, some of the stuff that Windows Intune can do for us. And I hope it's clear that I hope I've made it clear that we really can enable a mobile workforce, people working from anywhere and being able to work together from anywhere, and being able to deliver that in a way that's reliable and consistent for our users. So with that, I will open it up to questioning. We'll do it via the chat. So if you want to post some questions in the chat window, we can do our best to get those answered for you. Or if you want a little clarification around something that we've touched on, feel free to ask away. I will leave up my contact information if anybody wants to reach out to me directly. But other than that, that's all I had, and we'll turn it over to some Q&A. All right. Well, either everybody's been enlightened, being shy, or just wants to get out of here and get some lunch. I guess if there isn't any questions, we will wrap things up there. Again, feel free to reach out to me if you have any follow-on questions or want to talk more about some of the stuff that we've talked about today. And other than that, everybody have yourself a great day, and I appreciate you taking the time to spend with me today. Take care.